In this lesson, we're going to go over basic electrical parts, including wires, outlets, switches, covers, and some boxes. So the first thing we need to know about is wire. So the different wires that are used in, especially in residential work, it's called non-metallic wire, or NM. It's known by the common name Romex. So you can see it comes in typically big spools like this. It's got a rubber plastic sheathing on it, and when you strip away the sheathing, you've got three wires, at least typically three wires, sometimes four. You got your ground wire, your hot wire, and your white or neutral wire. There's two basic kinds of Romex wire. The two kinds are the 14 gauge and the 12 gauge, and you can see them pictured here. The 14 gauge is a little bit smaller diameter. If you put a dime up to it, it's about the thickness of a dime. A 12 gauge, which is a thicker wire, it's got a thicker diameter wire, is about as thick as a nickel. Now you'll notice if you look closely that they have different sleeves or jackets on it. This one has a white one, that's a 14 gauge, and this one is 12 gauge, which is a yellow. And that's done on purpose. The 15 amps, or a circuit that's rated to 15 amps, can use a 14 gauge wire, whereas a 12 gauge wire must be used on a circuit rated 20 amps, especially in things like kitchens, garages, things that would be using more power in a particular application. Usually in regular living spaces, living rooms, bedrooms, they use a 15 amp circuit, so 14 gauge wire would be used. Alright, so let's take a look at some electrical parts that we actually hook these wires up to. So the first thing, we have switch cover plate, which is going to go on top of the boxes. You can see we have two kinds here that are actually both identical for use with different switch boxes. The outlet cover plate, which you're going to see all around your home. This is a single cover plate, which will go on top of an outlet. We have a single pole switch, and a single pole switch is different than these switches, which I'll get to in a second. The single pole switch is just a regular light switch that you would see when you walk into a room. You flip it on, and the light in your room goes on, and then of course when you turn it off, it goes off. So that controls the electricity typically to one or more lights. And then we have what's called three-way switches. And you see the three-way switches have a little bit wider body on it compared to the single pole. The three-way switches are used in tandem with each other, so they kind of tag team a specific situation, commonly installed at the top and bottom of staircases. So if you're going down to a basement or up to a second floor, you'll have a three-way switch at the bottom, a three-way switch at the top, and that way you can control the light from both locations. And then finally, of course, we have an outlet with the both the ground, that's this hole right here, the ground post, and then the hot, which is the smaller one, and the neutral, which is the little bit larger or longer slot. So that's obviously where you plug in any kind of machine or TV or anything you want to power. All right, so all of those items have to be contained within boxes. It's required. You don't want something just wired and hanging out there unprotected. So there's two different types of metal boxes. We have a single gang on the left, and that's obviously for just a single light, or I'm sorry, a single outlet or a single switch. And then on the right side, we have what's known as a two gang, which holds two different either outlets or switches. And here you see a typical surface-mounted metal box. This is a two-gang box. It's got two outlets in it, and you can see this is metal conduit that's coming into it, which of course holds the wire so it's not exposed. You'll see these a lot of times in garage and other industrial shop applications. And then we have plastic boxes. This is the second type of box that's pretty common. So the plastic boxes, we have nail-on or new construction. We have a single gang and a two-gang variety of that. And then we have remodel boxes, a single and a double. And the applications for those are shown here. A nail-on is in new construction, so when you're building a home or a garage or any other structure in residential, you can nail these boxes on. That way they're secure. You run your your wire in it. It's called the rough-in phase. And then, of course, you put drywall or something on the walls and cut around these boxes. A remodel is when you want to add switches or outlets and you need to cut into a finished surface like drywall. So what you do is you cut into the drywall, you pop these in, and then there's little flaps that when you turn these screws, they will press up against the inside of the wall and secure it. It's a pretty neat application. So those are the basics of electrical parts with wires, outlets, switches, covers, and boxes.